Hey, John Mayfield, the real estate tech guy for Global Real Estate School, and we're going to go over some important information for the real estate examination. Now, I'm getting a lot of calls from students who have seen some various math problems on the exam, and I've spoken to a lot of our students who've passed the exam on the first attempt, and they're giving me some insight. It's actually information I've been sharing in previous videos, but I want to go back over it again with you this evening. So we're going to go over to the board and we're going to talk about debits and credits. Now, I realize a lot of times, a lot of people do not want to take the real estate school because they worry about the math, but I don't want you to worry about the math. It's not that difficult. And there's a couple of things you need to know in order to do very well on the real estate examination. And the first thing I want you to be familiar with are debits and credits. Now, two things that many new students have told me, and this is very important, is that you really need to know what is a debit and what is a credit. So you need to know debits and credits. Now, here's the very, very, very important part that you really need to know. And I've gone over this a lot, and some of the students who I've spoken to who've recently taken the examination, and by the way, if the test people are watching this, nobody's telling me questions. They're just giving me input on what others should do to study, okay? So don't want the test people to freak out that I'm giving away secrets or anything like that. But this is something I've talked about a lot, and it's something you need to know and practice and be very good at. The exam writers love to give you a lot of information. Like the questions will be this big or bigger, and it's gonna freak you out when you first see that question. You're gonna hit the next button and you're gonna see a paragraph of stuff, junk, words. Do not freak out, okay? And here's what I want you to do, and this is what every student has told me. Go to the very end of that paragraph and find out what they want you to answer, okay? Don't sit there and read that whole gobbledygook of junk, because a lot of that information will just throw you off track. So what you want to do is go down to the bottom and find out what they want you to answer, because a lot of that information in the question doesn't even pertain to what they want you to answer. And I have gone over this and over this and over this. They want to mess with your mind, okay? Don't let them do that. Just drop down, find out what it is they want you to answer, and then tear apart the problem and find out what the answer is. So a lot of my students have said, John, you've got to know those debits and credits, because they really want to, they may just ask you, what are the total credits? And if that's the case, we don't even care about this. In fact, we can just eliminate all of the debits, because all we are worried about are the credits, okay? So what I want to go over with today with you are just the credits, okay? We're going to just totally look at the credits on what you need to be pulling out of that problem. Then on tomorrow's episode, I'm going to look at the debits, all right? So let's take a look at the credits, and let's go over to our board, and I'm just going to give you examples of credits. Pardon me, I'm sorry, so sorry about that. So here we go. Here are the credits. So I'm going to write credits here, and I'm going to highlight this. Very important for you to know what are the credits. Number one, earnest money. The earnest money the buyer gives is always treated as a credit or a partial payment. Now, this is always going to be a credit to who? To the buyer, because the buyer's paid that money. So remember that. If there is a loan assumption, I've been guilty of abbreviating loan assumption, but I won't do that tonight. If there's a loan assumption, in other words, the buyer is assuming the seller's loan, that would be a credit to the buyer. Okay? Now, anytime you might have what we call accrued taxes, such as real estate taxes, and we've worked this before, this is normally a credit to the buyer. This is also buyer right there. All right, so everybody with me there? So we've got earnest money, loan assumption, accrued taxes. Remember, taxes are always paid in arrears. So it's like a hotel. When you check in on Monday, you check out on Friday, you're going to pay taxes for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. If you had a closing on April the 12th, you would pay taxes from January 1st until the day of closing. And that would be a credit to the buyer and a debit to the seller. So accrued taxes or real estate taxes are considered credits to the buyer unless they say the taxes are paid in advance. Okay, so don't forget that. So number 4, unearned revenues. Unearned revenues. And that would be things such as rent. Okay? Rent collected in advance would be a credit to the buyer. Now again, remember, you want to look at the questions. So we're wanting to look at the questions, and we want to determine what are they asking us. So we're going to the end of that. There's that big long chunk of information. We want to go to the end, and we want to figure out what are they asking us. And a lot of times they just want to know what the total credits are, or the total buyers, or the total debits, pardon me. So you've got to go through and actually pull out what are all of those credits. So you need to know what are the credits and what are the debits in this situation. So I'm going to adjust my microphone a little bit there. So unearned revenues or rent would be considered a credit. Those are collected in advance but not yet earned. And then proceeds from a new loan. From a new loan. So let's talk about that. If the buyer, and that again is going to be a credit to the buyer, but if you as a buyer get a new loan for $500,000, that loan is considered a credit. So don't forget that. So items credited to the seller, and so these are all buyer items here we've looked at, but let's look at some credits that would normally go to the seller. Well, those would be things such as the sales price is a credit to the seller. And I'm going to just highlight that so we know what we're looking at here. So the sales price, prepaid items, or items that are paid in advance. So if you paid homeowners association on July 1, and that went to June of the next year, and homeowners association are usually paid in advance. Well, if you paid that on July and you closed on November 1st, there is a credit between November the 1st and June the 30th, right? Because you paid this in advance. Other items that could be credit to the seller would be things such as insurance that was paid in advance as well. They don't normally ask, sorry about that, I'm having a tough time. Put a D on both of those there. They don't normally get into the insurance. I don't think you will see that. But tax reserves, if there's any taxes that were paid in advance, those could be a credit. So again, you need to really know what the credits and the debits are, because they're going to give you these questions. These questions are going to have lots of information. They want to just try to trip you up with the size of the information. But now you know you're going to just go do what? You're going to look at the end of the problem and say, what do they want me to answer? Because sometimes I've seen these questions with all of this stuff, and when you read the very last question, the last statement that says, how much is the earnest money, or what's the credit for this, you don't need all that other information in the problem. So be sure and read those carefully, and you'll do very good. So tomorrow we're going to look at debits. Today we looked at credits. I hope this helped you out, but I want you to remember and promise me you won't freak out when you see a math problem with all of this junk in it. You're going to say, John told me, go to the end of the problem, see what they're asking me to solve, and then go back and figure out or pull out that information they really want me to answer, okay? And you'll do just fine. Hey, as always, check us out at globalrealestateschool.com. We have some great things we are launching. I have this brand new Global Real Estate Academy I'm launching, where I'm going to have a lot of really cool stuff to help our students, and I'll help you as well, but to help our students once they finish the school, what they need to study between finishing the school and taking the test. So Global Real Estate School, I hear from students all the time that say, John, it was because of you that I passed my exam. In fact, just this week, I spoke to several students who went to other schools, but they found me on YouTube and they said, John, you helped us pass the test. And that's what I want to do. I want you to go to my school, and I want you to tell others about Global Real Estate School. But you know what? At the end of the day, I just want to help you pass the test, and I want to help you become a great real estate rock star. So check out Global Real Estate School and look at the Career Enhancement tab, because I've got a great way for you to make money and generate income after you pass the test. Hey, as always, thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. And we have a great podcast you can listen to in your car when you're walking to help you pass the real estate exam. I'm John Mayfield, the Real Estate Tech Guy for Global Real Estate School. Go out and make it a great day.